Recorded.
Just so you
Not good. Yeah, no. I didn't fix it.
somebody
The recording has stopped.
I think it's the presenter screen.
Okay, so I think we have everybody. Maybe it's not.
Wow. I did.
It wants me to get my coffee.
Yeah, I think it does.
You're not in Zoom.
We have any?
Are any listeners in?
The recording has stopped.
Looks great.
Go for that. Probably.
The recording has stopped.
Connor, try exiting out of the meeting and starting it all over again.
Are we ready to go again?
I
Think we got it? Joys of technology. We need to go back.
There we go. That's reassuring.
Okay, everybody ready? Commissioner Hill and Commissioner Sadowski available to join us? There we go.
Yes.
We're here.
Looks like we have everybody here today. I know a couple of the commissioners need to jump off a little bit early for a couple of things that they have to do for their work. So let's go ahead and get started. Pull up my notes. So good morning. Welcome to the March 21st, 2023 City Planning Commission meeting. Don't know about all the rest of you, but I enjoyed the games this past weekend, but my bracket is freaking doomed. It's unbelievable. The commission looks forward to hearing your case today as we understand that every project is important and unique. In addition, we want to make sure that we address all of the docketed items individually with the attention that they need to build consensus between the applicant, public, and city staff. We also believe we can reach consensus by being brief yet heard. Because our meeting is hybrid, we have time limits for the cases that we hear, which is 5 minutes for staff presentations, 20 minutes for the applicant, plus any questions from the commissioners. And then once we move into public comment, we will start with those that are in the chambers first, and then followed by those who are joining us virtually. We do have a timer to keep our meeting on track and expect public comments to be no longer than 2 minutes when speaking as an individual, or up to 5 minutes when representing a community association or a larger group. In all instances, please limit the repetitive comments. I generally talk about the KC Spirit playbook, but we're getting really close to having this thing ready to go and approved. We'll hear a little bit more about that here later this morning. Looking forward to that. So as we get started, I asked staff to provide ground rules and instructions as we conduct our meeting to ensure that we have minimal disruption and maximum clarity. So Joe, do you mind giving us those ground rules, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. For those participating on Zoom, you're considered attendees at this point, and there's two types of attendees. There are participants and just regular attendees. Participants are folks like commissioners who are able to share their audio and video. So if you're an applicant who wishes to speak on your case when it is called, go ahead and raise your hand in Zoom and we will promote you over. You do have to accept that promotion, so please do that. The same is true if you're a citizen who wishes to testify during the public hearing. When the planner is giving their presentation on the case you're interested in, go ahead and raise your hand and we'll move you over to a panelist position. And like the applicant, you will also need to accept that. Once you're promoted over, please make sure that you stay muted until you're ready to speak. And then once you're called, please be ready to unmute yourself and go ahead and begin your testimony. The last thing I want to remind everyone of is the chat feature in Zoom is intended to ask questions of a technical nature or about the agenda. It is not to be used to provide testimony on the merits of any project. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and start our meeting then, beginning with the consent agenda items, please.
All right, the first consent item, C1, is a continuance. Do you want me to call that separate from the other two?
Yep, I'm sorry. Yep, let's do that.
C1 is case number final plat 2023-00003. A request to approve a final plat for Greenwood Senior Housing on the south side of East 27th between Cleveland Avenue and Monroe Avenue. The applicant is requesting continuance to April 4th and staff recommends no fee.
Okay, any questions from the commission regarding docket item C1 and continuance of that to April 4th?
Joe, what was on our docket was approved with conditions. So why did it go into a continuance?
So when that happens, it's usually between the time we publish the docket and release our staff report that the applicant asks for a continuance, possibly because of something in our staff report or something conditions on their end changed. I don't know if Justin knows of a specific reason for the request, but that's typically why you see the discrepancy.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
I'm disappointed. I won't be here for that one on April.
Action day.
Mm-hmm.
Be here either.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the commission regarding docket item C1 and its continuance? Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. Anybody wishing to speak about the continuance of docket item C1, please come forward or raise your hand using the chat or the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, no one in the audience wishes to speak and no one in Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then, and I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Corral, I move to continue docket item C1 to April 4th without fee.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second for continuance of docket item C1 to April 4th. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes for continuance of docket item C1. So I understand we just do C2 because C3, we might need to pull that off the consent and move it as a regular agenda. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Okay, C2 is case number final plat 2023-00001. This is a request to approve a plat in District UR located at the southwest corner of 46 Terrace and Pennsylvania Avenue. Staff is recommending approval with conditions.
Okay, any questions from the commission regarding docket item C2?
Yep, I was wondering if staff could just explain the timing. I feel as though most final plats we see closer to completion of the project. And I was just curious as an educational point for me, what the timing discrepancy was.
You're saying because the building's built and the plat's coming through now, is that what you're asking or?
Yeah, I was trying to look through other cases. And so I felt as though it's not totally, like most of the time we'll see a final plat prior and then sometimes after, but not like years after, right? So I was just curious as to why it was years later.
This one is later than normal. I'm not sure what the particular reason for that is. We could find out and report back to you, but it isn't unheard of for final plats to come afterwards because if they've financed any public improvements, they're allowed to proceed with construction before the plat gets recorded.
Well, yeah, I wasn't concerned. It was more so just curious because it was uncommon.
And I can comment on that. They, the prior final plat had lapsed and it was under our old filing system. So we had them reapply under the new Compass KC to finalize this.
Got it. Cool. Thanks.
Any other questions from the commission? Okay, so let's go ahead and open it up for any public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item C2, please come forward or use the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, no one in Zoom has raised their hand and there's no one in the audience wishing to speak.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then, and I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Corral, I move to approve doc item C2 with conditions, without conditions. Sorry.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item C2 without conditions. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes then 8-0 for approval of docket item C2. So let's move on to C3, please.
Docket item C3 is case number final plat 2023-00004. Request to approve a final plat in District MPD for Antioch Village at the northwest corner of North Antioch Road and Northeast 53rd Street to create 4 lots and 2 tracks. Staff is recommending approval with conditions, and I believe Mr. Barnes has an update on one of the conditions.
Okay,
Yes, condition number 15 needs to be removed. For this final plot, they're not proposing any residential. Condition number 15 is for the parkland dedication fee. This is an MPD plan, so when they come back in for lot 1, most likely they will revise the MPD plan with currently that what's being platted as a lot one currently is residential and commercial. So that will change in the future, but any change will have to come back through us and be revised. And at that time, they'll pay that parkland dedication fee.
Okay. Any questions from the commission regarding removal of condition 15? All right, seeing none, is the applicant available? Okay with that?
The applicant requested it. It's
Okay.
Patricia Jensen.
All right, so let's go to public testimony then. If there's anybody that would like to speak regarding docket item C3, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, Patricia Jensen has raised her hand on Zoom. It does not appear anyone in the audience wishes to speak.
Okay. Good morning, Ms. Jensen.
Am I on? Oh, I'm there. It didn't show me being promoted. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, my name is Patricia Jensen, representing the applicant in this case, and we agree with the deletion of 15.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else wish to speak, Joe?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so at this time, I'll go ahead and close public testimony and I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Crowley, move to approve docket item C3 with conditions, removing condition number 15.
Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item C3 and removal of condition 15. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like the motion is approved, 8-0.
Thank you all. Commissioner Crowell, I just have to say, college basketball is over, but you guys need to be following Ochai Agbaji playing for the Utah Jazz because he's having a fabulous season.
Right.
Yeah, good point. That's NBA though, right? It's kind of hard. to
I
follow.
know. I like college
Don't play
basketball.
basketball.
Okay.
Okay, with that, let's go ahead and move to our regular agenda items, beginning with those docket items that are looking to be moved to a different date.
Mr. Chair, the continuances are for docket items 10 through 15, starting with item 10, case number CDSUP 2023-00007. This is a request to approve a special use permit for a bed and breakfast at 426 Gladstone. The applicant is requesting continuance to April 18th and staff recommends no fee. Docket item number 11, case number CPC 2023-00023. Request to approve a development plan and for limited manufacturing and outdoor warehousing at Northeast Parvin Road and North Corrington Avenue. The applicant is requesting continuance to April 4th. Staff recommends without fee. Docket item 12, case number CPC 2023-00015. Request to approve a rezoning from District AGR to District M2-5 on about 61 acres at the southeast corner of Interstate 435 and North Congress Avenue. The applicant is requesting continuance to April 4th and staff recommends without fee. Docket number 13 is a companion case for this. It's a development plan at the same location, allowing two 400,000 square foot industrial buildings. The applicant is requesting continuance of this to April 4th. Staff recommends without fee. Docket item 14 is case number CPC 2023-00022. A request to approve a rezoning without a plan from District R6 to District B1-1 at 5500 Woodland Avenue. The applicant is requesting continuance to April 4th. Staff recommends without fee. And finally, docket item number 15, case number CPC 2023-00006. This is the Union Health 353 certificate of completion. It's been continued several times. And at this point, staff is recommending continuance off docket with fee. So the docket in front of you says without fee, but since we're continuing off docket, we do need to assess a fee.
Okay, any questions from the commissioners regarding continuance of docket items 10 through 15? Okay. Let's see. So with that, let's go ahead and open it up for any public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to discuss continuance of docket items 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, or 15, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature.
Mr. Chair, does not appear anyone in the audience wishes to speak and no one has raised their hand on Zoom.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then, and I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Corral, I move to continue docket items 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 to the date stated in the docket, and to continue docket item 15 off docket with fee.
What about, you said 13 and 14 as well?
I believe so.
Okay. Would be my hearing. So 10 through 14 is on the docket and 15 off docket with fee, correct?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Second.
So I've got a motion and a second for continuance of docket items 10 through 14 and dismiss continuance off docket with fee for number 15. Lisa, can you take roll call on the motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crow,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
Hill. Aye. Rojas
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Aye.
Okay, looks like the motion passes then for continuance of those docketed items as stated. All right, so let's move back to docket item number 1, please.
Mr. Chair, I have docket item 1. I'm going to let Larissa read it.
Docket item number 1 is case number CDCPC 2023-0031 to amend chapter 88 of the Kansas City Code of Ordinances, also referred to as the Zoning and Development Code, in any manner necessary to facilitate the transfer of administration and enforcement of short-term rentals to the Neighborhoods Department. And Joseph Rexwinkle will do the presentation.
Bear with me just a moment, please. Oh, thank you. All right, Larissa's reading of the description is essentially my presentation. I know that all of you, except for Chairman Crow, were not on the commission when the original short-term rental ordinance was adopted. So I understand if you have some questions, I'm happy to try to answer those. But just for your knowledge, it was initially proposed in 2017, the current ordinance, and it was adopted in February 2018 and became effective August 6, 2018. Since then, we've not changed the ordinance. It's been operating as you see it today. You guys see just a very small portion of the short-term rentals. You're only seeing the special use permits. There are many hundreds, and in fact, there are thousands of short-term rentals in Kansas City, and there are many hundreds that have been applied through the administrative process that my staff currently handles. The market in Kansas City, we have some third-party contractors that we've worked with over the past 5 years. Our market, it has grown. When we first adopted the ordinance, there was about 1,000 short-term rentals. There are now about 1,800 in Kansas City. There was a little dip when COVID started, but it bounced back pretty quickly. We are told by the contractors that we've worked with that our market has a 90% turnover rate. And what that means is while there might be 1,800 short-term rentals today, about 10% of those are different tomorrow, even though the total number might be the same. So approximately 180 short-term rentals advertised today will drop off tomorrow, and 180 new ones would be added. Each of those is supposed to have a registration. And so as you can imagine, tracking all of that and making sure that they have a registration is a challenge for whomever is responsible for it. When the ordinance was passed in 2018, our department did make requests for additional resources. Those requests were not honored. So we accepted the ordinance with the resources we had and performed as well as we could. But as you know, we have, as you see on your agendas, we have a lot of other projects with conflicting demands, a lot of large scale development projects that do take priority over administering the short-term rental ordinance. The other issue that we've encountered is that it turns out that the state law does not allow a penalty in excess of $150 for a zoning violation. So by the time a violation gets to municipal court, it might be several weeks after we sent a first notice of violation. So by that point, you can imagine that the operator has made many times that amount in revenue. So the fine structure, the fee structure, penalties do not serve as a deterrent. So for all these reasons, it was identified after the audit was published last December, I believe it was, that administration enforcement should be shifted to a different department and a different chapter of the city code that has greater penalties and would serve as hopefully more of a deterrent to get more people registered as they're supposed to be. So the neighborhoods department has been identified by the city council as being the right department for that with the right capacity. Since then, since December, a select group of staff have been working to draft changes to Chapter 56 of the city code. So the bulk of the standards that exist today in Chapter 88 would move to Chapter 56. They would be modified to address some of the issues that have been raised by the public and the council. But Chapter 56, as with all chapters of the city code, is under the discretion of the city council to approve. The planning commission has no jurisdiction over it. So what is before you today is simply repealing those standards from Chapter 88 so that they can be added to 56 and that transfer of responsibility can occur. There will be very minor language retained in Chapter 88 to simply acknowledge that short-term rentals are a use and where they are allowed by zoning, but all the standards would shift to Chapter 56, as would the registrations. I am happy to answer any questions for you. You might have some, but it's really as simple as that. It's all being repealed from Chapter 88 and will be put into Chapter 56.
Okay, any questions from the commission? Yes.
I have more than one question. Of these 1,800, how many are operating with a permit?
There's, on any given day, there's between 175 and 200 in the past
This
few
change
months.
will give more people. Will there be more or less people checking how many have applied and have a permit and how many don't have, and answering to complaints by neighbors?
I can't answer that question. That's a question for the neighborhoods department. I don't know.
How good does it feel to say that?
It feels good. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, I think, Paul, I think that listening to council conversations, the idea is that neighborhoods has code enforcement and can be more responsive to complaints, I guess. So I think that was the intention behind it, that there's more people that are out and about constantly working on things.
They do have, I can say they do have more code enforcement staff. We have one right now. So I know that they have significantly more than we do. How many of those people will be allocated towards it? I don't know. That would have to be answered by them. So they do have more resources from that perspective. I think the biggest piece is that the penalty and enforcement stuff is also facilitated because of the chapter of the code it would be in.
So Joe, does the special permit still come to the planning commission, or are we not going to see any?
You may see a couple more. There are a couple more in the pipeline that may be come to you before these ordinances pass. But after these ordinances become effective, you will not see them anymore.
So will we see special or short-term rentals that are not in the appropriate zoning?
No.
Okay. This is my dream right now. So
Took the words away from Joe, I think is what you.
Do you have the Chapter 88 text handy? For some reason, when I followed the link, I wasn't able to see it. I know it's just like a line.
Yeah, I
was just
can.
curious if we had that.
Yeah, I can pull it up.
Commissioner Sadowski or Commissioner Hill, any questions?
No, I feel like I share the sentiments of what's been expressed so far. I think this is a great decision.
Okay.
I don't know if a staff member who has the agenda can pull it up and share their screen. It's making me log in on this one.
Can I ask a quick clarification while you're doing that, Joe? You had mentioned that some of the short terms are not going through the registration process.
Many aren't.
Is there a fee connected to that registration process?
Yes, there is so zoning approval is required currently for every short-term rental that's in a residential zoning district. And that must occur before we can issue the registration. So there has been a lot of confusion amongst the industry about the two-step process. For that often delays or causes, anytime there's confusion, it delays registration. But every short-term rental, regardless of its zoning, has to be registered. And that will continue to be the case under the new ordinance.
Is that a yearly?
It is an annual, it's currently an annual registration, and it will be as well, continue to be.
So Joe, where does the public then, if they've don't want a short-term rental near them, where do they go to talk to the neighborhoods committee, or how is that then passed through?
I don't know if they have a committee that would, I'm looking at Sarah because I know her staff has worked on chapter 56 and I've glanced at it, but I haven't read it thoroughly.
I mean, there wouldn't be, if you're asking about, would there be a public hearing as part of the process under 56? No, there would not be.
So how does the public comment on a short-term rental? And they've got this forum to do it if they want to. Do they just go straight to council on neighborhood planning?
I mean, are you asking about the policy in general
No,
or
I'm
a
asking
specific
about how
case?
the public would comment on a short-term rental.
If they had issues with noise complaints or things like that, they would report that to neighborhoods and then neighborhoods would investigate that.
But prior to even it becoming a short-term rental and approved, where does neighborhoods go to?
They're all approved at staff level. Under
Right.
the proposed
They'd all be
ordinance.
administratively approved. Most of them are currently administratively approved, but under this section, all of them would be.
Okay.
So if I can tag on to what I think I'm hearing, there's no process before it's admitted for the neighbors to weigh in as if they want it or not.
My understanding is that under chapter 56, that's correct. It's all administrative approved. If you meet the ordinance, you're approved.
And the process for running an Airbnb or short-term rental, where would they find that on our city site to know what their requirements are?
I believe neighborhoods department, I mean, the transition, we have a web page currently. I'm imagining they may take that over and edit it as they need to.
Okay.
But I have not been involved in those discussions that's within the neighborhoods department.
So do they still have to go and get approval with signatures on neighbors and?
No, they do not. So that has been required for what we call a type 2, which is where a resident does not live in the home, whether they're the owner or a long-term tenant, but they rent it for a short-term rental. That type of short-term rental under the new ordinance would just have a density limitation. So you couldn't have clusters of them within a close proximity of each other. But aside from that, there's no consent required, as I understand it.
So I think broadly speaking, most short-term rentals are operating outside of registration. There's a lack of enforcement due to resources and kind of availability. And so what this is doing in my mind is, one, moving to a department that may be more nimble in enforcement, which is probably the real reason to get some of these people registered. And then I think the density requirement helps to alleviate the West Plazas of the world that are potentially inundated with tons of short-term rentals, right? And so I'm guessing that once you reach that density limit, then anyone who applies is just like, well, there's not enough.
Right.
You don't get enough. There's only so many tickets to.
It's like
to
a
have.
raffle. Yeah.
It's like a raffle. And I think that's kind of where as kind of like a pusher of this, I think that's kind of where I wanted us to go. And I'm excited about that because I think that's one of the bigger issues. It's not that we want to eliminate all short-term rentals, but we want them to run well, enforced well, and then not have too many. And I think this kind of accomplishes all of that. And then personally, I think that this body is not necessarily the most appropriate to deal with if there does need to be some sort of public forum, I don't necessarily think it should be us.
I've got no problem with the change. I think it's actually quite good. It seems to be more efficient to administrate, but I'm concerned that there's just if neighborhoods have got an issue with too many short-term rentals, where do they go?
Yeah, my interpretation of this with not fully understanding it was that this is now moving it to a department where a system could be built that is more robust than currently exists because that system was not able to be built within city planning because it was forcing the wrong thing into the wrong spot. And so my interpretation was that this was like step one of hopefully multiple steps. Now, I don't think anyone's laid those out and that's more to be determined, but my personal anticipation is that now that it's moved and as we get settled, it'll be an opportunity for greater enforcement because there are other cities that have enforced it in different ways, which the staff report kind of alluded to. And I don't think the city's ready to add those enforcement methods yet, but now that it's in the appropriate place, the appropriate department, those enforcement methods could be evaluated and potentially used.
Again, I think it's a good move. I had no issue with the move. I thought it was good from administration. Seems like they've got more staff, but again, I'm just concerned on where do neighborhoods go in the short term? Say, hey, I don't want this short term or these short term rentals in my neighborhood.
Yeah, and I mean to that point, I hear you, and I think that I would be telling my neighbors like, yep, you still got to keep on talking about it. This is one really, really positive step, but it didn't solve the problems that you've existed. You still need to put in a 311 call. You still need to talk to council members. You still need to voice that you want to address this.
We have an idea of time frame before this will take.
These are on tomorrow's neighborhood planning and development committee docket before city council, but my understanding is they will hold it a couple weeks. And then I believe it's written to have an effective date of May 15th if it passes.
Yes, that's right.
Any other questions from the commission?
I just don't know what
Commissioner
Joe's gonna
Rojas.
do with his spare time.
I don't know.
I just, I'd like to make a comment. Already, I think, I know, especially in older neighborhoods like mine, where parking is limited, people operating these businesses without a permit, not even extending a courtesy to the neighbors. Would you approve this next to you or you don't approve? They don't care about that. They just go ahead and open these types of businesses without consulting anybody. I don't believe that, not even asking for a permit. So with this change, you already say that there are hardly no inspectors to go out and check any complaint the citizens may have. Is there going to be less people checking any complaint the citizens may have? I don't know how this is helping the neighbors.
I mean, I think that that's a good question, but the part of the reason the neighborhoods department was identified is because I believe there's consensus and a belief that they do have the capacity to do that. So I can't tell you like how many staff they might have, but the people that have made some of these decisions already are doing that because they believe they have the capacity.
Anybody else with questions? How about Commissioner Sadowski and Hill? Okay, so I guess the other thing, did we find the language? Did you still want to see that?
If it's
And
easy, but
Did a staff member was able to pull it up? I can't get to it on here. I have to log in.
I can share mine. Is it just the ordinance language? Okay.
I think we have it pulled up here.
Joe, I have it pulled up on the big screen.
Okay, thank you. So.
See that, Commissioner Hill and Sadowski? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see it.
So if you scroll down, Larissa, keep going till you get to the use table. A little bit further till we get short-term rentals. So you see here the red line change. This is actually the only part of the code that one of only two sections of the code that we're keeping in the code. And it's just, this is residential zoning districts where it's saying short-term rentals are permitted in accordance with chapter 56. So it's referring customers to go look at chapter 56 for any details pertaining to them. And then there's another section that I think would be way at the end where we are changing the use standards, which is where the repeal is really happening, the bulk of it. We had issues downloading these tables from Unicode, as you can see. It's further. It's way at the end. Okay, it's right here. So these are the use standards that we use to apply to administrative review of short-term rentals. And they do come up from time to time on special use permits, but I think one of the things that you all have encountered is there's not specific standards or criteria for decision-making on special use permits for short-term rentals. All of this would be repealed from 88. It's going into 56. I did provide in the staff report a link to that. I hope that link worked to chapter 56 changes so that you could see it. But that's not before you for a vote today, since it's just city council that has discretion on that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the commission to city staff? All right, seeing none, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony then. Anybody that would like to speak regarding docket item number 1, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature.
Mr. Chair, it does not appear that there's anyone in the room, and we have one person online and they're being promoted.
Okay.
And it's Tiffany Moore.
Yeah, good morning. As you take yourself off mute, please state your name and address for the record. There you go.
Good morning. My name is Tiffany Moore. I live at 222 West 75th Street, and I am here speaking on behalf of the Kansas City Neighborhood Advisory Council. As you are aware, we've been working on the short-term rental ordinance for quite some time and have, hopefully you're aware that we've issued a couple of recommendation packets, one for a moratorium and one related to policy. We were aware of those two, the two companion ordinances being introduced at council last week. We were not aware that this was coming before City Plan Commission today, so we do not have anything to present to you in writing as a follow-up to my comments. There is a companion ordinance, and I want to be really clear in some of the questions that you all have asked. The companion ordinance is what gives the neighborhoods the authority to actually take over this set of activities. Transferring the language of Chapter 88 to 56 does not give them the room to move. They have capacity, but they'll have no authority, because this language requires an application process and hearing process through the City Plan Commission. If they're not approved, the Neighborhoods Department doesn't have the authority to continue using that framework. What happens if we move this portion of this part of this companion set of ordinances forward, we are sort of on a time clock to adopt the amended ordinance. And the amended ordinance right now, from the neighborhood perspectives, is unacceptable. One of the things that you just saw scroll across the screen is that this half of the pair allows rentals in all our zoning districts. Currently, they're not allowed in 7.5 and R10. Those communities are not aware that this half of this pair of ordinances is going to change that. So if this moves forward, those neighborhoods would then begin to see applications that they have not seen before, but I'm not sure how we process them because neighborhoods doesn't have the same authorities that planning does. They would come off of your docket, but they don't have to go until we create that amended ordinance. What we had asked is that this one also be held until we can come to some agreement on what the amendment looks like, because they almost have to be passed at the same time. So this one can't move forward and then go to council for an independent approval because we don't have any way to then process the applications. They could probably follow up on certain enforcement things, but there's no to continue what you guys are typically seeing here for the applications that aren't administratively approved. So this kind of falls apart, which then will encourage everyone to move forward more quickly with the language that's been proposed. Moving to a density only, when we had this conversation with Director of Neighborhoods this week, he clearly stated that neighborhoods and individual property owners would have no recourse if they did not want a short-term rental next to them. There's the recommendation right now, that draft ordinance does not provide any input process from neighbors, neighborhoods, organizations, or individual property owners. It's based solely on density, and the research that we've done so far indicates that other cities that have attempted a density only have not been successful. It's simply chasing them around and around and around because the industry is far more nimble than anything we have. So ultimately, the Neighborhood Advisory Council is supportive of moving this enforcement from 88 to 56, but we don't have agreement on what that new program is going to look like. And so it's premature to make that transfer of authority.
Okay.
I'm happy to answer any questions relative to the research that we've done and our position on asking for this to be held until there is agreement on what program and policy is going to look like.
Yes.
I would just add, maybe there's some confusion, but the Chapter 56 revision has already been drafted and docketed and is also currently in NPD committee. So the council will be hearing these two ordinances at the same time. Now, the current docket says that they will be held until April 5th. So they're not going to be heard tomorrow, but it's not accurate to state that the city hasn't yet drafted a replacement. The ordinance is currently docketed and published, and Joe provided a link to it as well in his staff report.
Yeah, so the way I see everything right now is everything regarding short-term rentals, the permitting compliance, the on the back end, even the enforcement is all moving out of 88 and into 56 or whatever the new one is, right? And that's kind of that's what we're looking at and trying to approve today. So how that gets permitted, I mean, that's still something yet to be worked out, but it's on neighborhoods end, how that really works.
Yeah. I mean, you're just being asked to approve the deletion of the regulations from 88 and then the new program that will be in 56, which is not identical to what's in 88. So it's not going to come before CPC or BZA, right? There's not going to be special use permits. However, the framework for the new program has already been drafted, and that debate will need to occur in NPD because that's not before CPC because it's not Chapter 88.
Yeah, okay.
It just would have been nice to hear from neighborhoods to see what their timeline was and whether there's going to be people able to
speak more into your microphone, please.
Just would have been nice for neighborhoods to come and give us an idea of the timeline of their implementation, where they may have something or a process where neighborhoods could come and object or approve a short-term rental if there was. I mean, that's been the issue with CPC. I've got no problem move the language. To me, it's the process on how neighborhoods can actually have input into approval of short-term rentals.
Maybe that can be a recommendation as part of motion or whatever.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, just to look into that or whatever.
Yeah.
Commissioner Sadowski, look like you've got something to say. You're off mute.
No, I just was curious. It seems like I get the points that have been raised. It just seems like the advocacy effort is best suited for the neighborhoods conversation. And I'm not necessarily denying there isn't some additional thought that needs to go into that, but it sounds like there's a forum for that in a couple weeks to do so. So I think I still stand by my agreement that we move forward.
Okay. Anybody else for public testimony?
No one else appears online.
Okay, so let's go ahead and close public testimony then and speak amongst the commission unless the city staff has more to add here on this.
I just have a quick thought. For those that we have approved that were under the special use permit, that will be addressed under the new neighborhoods policy then.
Yeah, so neighborhoods will continue to issue registration as long as the SUP is and it remains in effect. This doesn't erase those.
Okay.
And then they would be fully subject to the regulations in 56. I think that's a fair way of summarizing it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments from the commission? I'll take a motion, please.
Commissioner Elder, if you want to make the motion, I think my thought process is that the recommendation in addition to the motion isn't necessary. So I would just make it as is because I think they're already handling what your concern is. But if you want to make the motion and add that recommendation, then I'll support that as well.
Well, yeah, I move. Well, I'll have a go at it. I move to approve docket item 1, approval without conditions. Well, with approval without conditions, with the attachment that I think we would like to see how neighborhoods can have input into short-term rental approval. I don't know whether that's the right wording, but
yeah, you just still recommend that they have some kind of process that they're going through for approvals and compliance.
Yep, that's it. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 1 with the recommendation that neighborhoods looks into the actual approval process and compliance. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Yes, sorry, I think I got kicked off. Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Rojas,
Reluctantly, yes.
and Sadowski.
Aye.
And can you tell me who motioned and seconded?
Commissioner Allender was the motion and Commissioner Enders was the second.
Got it.
Okay, so it looks like the motion has been approved 8-0. Is that right, Mr. Rojas? I think was a yes. Yes, okay. All right, so thank you for bringing that forward and good luck to the planning department as well as the neighborhoods department.
Yeah.
All right, docket item number 2, please.
Docket item number 2 is case number CD miscellaneous 2022-00001. It's for the Kansas City Spirit Playbook. It is found entirely online. The final draft is found entirely online and staff is available to present a short summary and available for questions and feedback for the final draft in anticipation of bringing it to the April 4th meeting. And Morgan Pemberton is the planner.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Morgan Pemberton and Gerald Williams from Long Range Planning. We have a short video that we would like to try to play for you, barring any technical difficulties that we may have.
And Morgan, prior to playing the video, good morning, Commissioners. Jeffrey Williams, Director of City Planning and Development. Thank you for the time of your busy docket to allow us to keep you updated and prepare the final draft. I'm sitting here as opposed to sitting with Mr. Williams, Ms. Pemberton, because I do have a 10 o'clock appointment I have to get to. But really, we are at the place now, we're very happy for the work to speak for itself. Years and years of work and feedback. And now we're at the place where images and text and data are in place to be able to present to you for your consideration an updated comprehensive plan for the city of Kansas City, Missouri. So with that, I know that Morgan and Gerald will answer your questions. We look forward to your feedback. And I guess I could say at this point, let it roll, Morgan. Thank you.
Thank you.
I knew it. It's a shot.
City planning is no accident. Kansas City is shaped by big ideas and big decisions. Our city today is the vision of half a generation.
Yep, it worked at business session last week. Sorry about that. We will send that out to you. It is a promotional video that we made to advertise the final draft of the plan coming out and to let people know that they can go find it. So from there, we're going to just jump into our presentation. Just one moment.
And we're also producing a longer video. That's sort of a teaser video to get people interested and excited about the plan. We have another one that'll educate people about what the plan says, how to use it, things like that. That's still being produced.
So a quick question on timing. You're going to come on April 4th. Is that correct?
That's our plan. If we have, I believe this requires 5 votes. And we're not sure we'll have that many of you here that day. So we'll have to wait and see. But that's our plan to come on April 4th. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll be delivering, we have the website produced. That's where all of the content is currently. Everything's in place. We'll be delivering to you all, though, a PDF document of the entire thing. That's not a web-based thing. It's an actual document because that's required to adopt the plan. So whenever we send out our city packets, a week or so before that hearing is when you all will get that. But it's essentially a mirror image of what you'll see online. All of that's available now on our website. And if you haven't been to the book.kc Monaco recently, around March 8th or so, we rolled out the full website with all the planned content. We've been very, very busy since our last hearing with you all in January. Weekends, evenings, holidays, just working diligently to
online. I can't hear you guys anymore.
Same here. I thought it was on my end. There's some connectivity issues.
Anything from them?
Okay, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Yeah.
I can. Yeah. So it must be on their end.
And so.
Ashley, can you hear me? Ashley Sadowski?
Yep, I can hear you.
You are now the host on Zoom. Can you please make me a co-host?
Sure. Figure out how to do that. Give me a second. What's that?
Thank you.
And this as well. Let me see.
We're ready to reconvene our meeting.
I
Okay,
believe so.
Commissioner Sadowski, you're available, correct?
Yep.
And Commissioner Hill, are you available? Maybe we lost her.
I'm still here.
Okay, and you're good through 11, and Commissioner Sadowski, you had to leave from 11 to something, is that right?
Yeah, 11 to 1.
11 to 1, okay. All right, well, let's go ahead and finish up. So apologize to everybody about the delay in our meeting while we worked on internet issues. But I think we're ready to reconvene our meeting again. So let's go ahead and finish out, please.
Okay, one final thing is that the comprehensive plan will require a vote of a majority of the full commission, which is 5 members. So I think it's important to know we're scheduled to be back on April 4th for that vote, and to know what our role will be, who will be present that day, and if we'll have 5 members present or not, and if we need to continue to another date. So
Yeah, I think so. Commissioner Rojas, you're out April 4th, correct?
As of now, I am.
Commissioner Beasley's out,
No.
Commissioner Baker's out. Commissioner Hill or Sadowski, are you out on April 4th as well?
I don't think I will be.
Was
You're- So you both are in, is that correct?
No, I think that's election day. I'm out.
Okay, so we're only going to have 4 commissioners that day.
okay,
So it sounds like at this time, and I'd hate to chance it even if we had 5, that we're going to state they're going to be here, that sounds like we need to
Yeah.
postpone it one more meeting.
Yep.
To the
the
18th.
And I would suggest, though, it was advertised for the 4th, so keep it on the agenda and then we'll
Continue it.
officially continue it on the day. Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, you'd have to re-advertise.
okay. Thank you all for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you for all the work you've done on a comprehensive plan. I know we're all looking forward to seeing that come to life and being the document to follow for the next 30 years, right? I know it's 20, but it'll be 30 by the time the next one's in place. So on that same note, just to make sure the other commissioners, so Allender, myself, Enders, and Sadowski. So there's only going to be 4 of us. If one of you are find that you're not going to be at the meeting on the 4th, let us know as soon as possible, because we won't be able to have our meeting. We'll have to cancel it because we'll due to lack of quorum. Okay. With that note, let's go ahead and move on then to docket item number 3, please.
Docket item number 3 is case CD CPC 2023-00030. Text amendment to approve an amendment to the zoning and development code to align the definition of a restaurant with the code of ordinances. And Jared Clements is the staff planner.
Thanks, Larissa. Give me 1 second here while I share my screen. All right. Can you all see that there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So before us, we have docket item number 3, case number CD CPC 2023-30. This is an amendment to the zoning and development code definition of a restaurant to align that definition with chapter 10 of the code of ordinances. So a bit of background as to why this amendment is necessary. Between May of 2020 and June of 2022, the city manager and regulated industries worked to update Chapter 10 of the Code of Ordinances, which is the chapter that regulates alcoholic beverages. This flowchart represents the previous regulations in Chapter 10. Establishments were considered restaurants if they generated 50% or more of their gross annual sales through the sale of food, or if their gross annual sales from food exceeded $200,000. It was determined that the second threshold, that in green, was overly lenient, as it was easily surpassed by many businesses, which made the first threshold of less consequence. When Chapter 10 was amended, these two requirements were merged into a single definition, where an establishment must now generate a minimum of 30% of gross annual sales from food to qualify as a restaurant. It was determined that this number represents a reasonable compromise between the two thresholds. To be clear, this amendment is already in place in the Code of Ordinances. It took place early last year. In the Zoning and Development Code, we still define a restaurant as 50% or more of gross annual food sales. So you can see the proposed change to the Zoning and Development Code here, which simply aligns the Zoning and Development Code with the Code of Ordinances. Below the red line version, you can see a consolidated use table comparing the differences between these two uses. The only districts where the proposed amendment would cause any change in regulation are districts O, B1, and downtown residential. And those changes would be for establishments that make between 51% and 69% of their sales from alcohol. Given the significant contextually dependent discretion exercised by regulated industries when reviewing alcohol license applications, our staff is confident that modifying our definition to align with the Code of Ordinances that they administer is appropriate. Staff recommends approval without conditions, and with that, I'll conclude my presentation and be available for any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commissioners?
One question, and not a huge deal. Is it worth specifying food versus non-alcoholic beverages? Because it was my understanding that non-alcoholic beverages count towards food. So for example, juices or smoothies or things of the like are considered in that food count.
Let's see. I'm just going to quickly look to the, so you're saying that we should prepared food. Sorry, I'm just comparing the standards I have in front of me.
Well, I don't think that wherever you're looking probably has it listed the way I just suggested. So it was more wondering aloud whether we want to have it be more accurate, but also not conflicting in Chapter 88, or if it's just worth it to keep it consistent. Because again, my understanding of the way that regulated industries enforces and tracks is that any non-food consumable counts as an offset to the alcoholic sales. But that does include something like coffee, a smoothie, a juice, a Diet Coke, etc.
I see. I think that it is covered in the Zoning and Development Code because so restaurant and tavern are kind of a binary definition in our code. It's either one or the other, and tavern is defined as serving alcohol. So I think it's covered. What you're saying is covered, if I understand correctly.
Okay. Thanks.
Sure thing.
So what would your front range be? Just out of curiosity.
It's considered a restaurant.
Okay.
But for example, I mean, that's, with pastries, that's different. But in theory, if someone were to open a juice bar that also sold wine and they didn't sell anything besides juice and wine, they could also be considered a restaurant as opposed to a tavern. The reason you'd want to do that is because there's a density restriction on taverns. And so therefore it's hard to open a tavern license in most parts of the central business district. And so everyone wants to end up applying as a restaurant. And so if you sold enough juice in theory, to hit the $200,000 threshold, well, now you have to hit 30%. But it seems unclear, and I'd like it to be more clear in the long term that people realize that things like coffee and juice in regulated industries' eyes count towards the non-alcoholic sales, at least in my understanding.
And is that the same as packaged food versus actual cooked food?
Yeah, my understanding is that whether someone makes, fresh pasta, or you get a packaged sandwich to go, or you buy chips off the shelf, or you get a bottled water, all of that in my understanding is the same category.
Jared, can you remind me what's the derivation of this change in definition? What caused this to come before us?
Sure. So the original amendment, I'm trying to navigate my PowerPoint. The original amendment to the Code of Ordinances was originally initiated by a resolution adopted by council in 2020 that directed the city manager to complete a review of Chapter 10. And then 2 subsequent ordinances amending Chapter 10 were adopted in January of 2022 and June of 2022 that made these changes. And then for us, we had a business who, by regulated industry standards, was a restaurant, but by our standards was a tavern and was located in B1. And brought this to our attention, and we weren't aware that regulated industries had changed their definition. So we conferred with regulated industries about the changes they made and brought this before you here today.
So this is more of a change to be in alignment with the regulated industries and the liquor license folks.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the commission? City staff? Okay. So at this time, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 3, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, no one appears in the chambers and no one has their hand raised online.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. And if there's no more discussion with the commission, I'll take a motion, please.
I need to ask Sarah a quick question. I'm on the board for Regulated Industries Advisory Board. Do I need to recuse from this? Vote on this.
I don't believe that would present a conflict. You don't have a financial interest or anything like that, right? Yeah, no, I think
I
you're fine.
voted for that change. Body.
I don't view that as a conflict because you don't have a business interest. However, if you believe that in any way.
I'm fine.
Okay, I think you're good.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Crowell, I move to approve docket item number 3 without conditions.
Second.
So I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 3. Can we take roll call on that motion, please?
Yep. Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes then 8-0. So let's move on to docket item number 4, please.
Docket item number 4 is case number CD CPC 2023-00021, a request to rezone an area of about 0.14 acres from M1-5 to R-1.5, generally located at 2111 Brooklyn Avenue, and Andrew Clark is the staff planner.
Good morning, Chairman Crowell and fellow commissioners. Bear with me one moment. Okay, before you is docket number 4, CD CPC 2023-21. It's a rezoning without plan at 2111 Brooklyn Avenue. The site is located just south of 70 and just east of 71. As you can see here, it is all residential in the area with some institutional uses to the west. And as you may know, what is zoned UR just to the west of this site is where Municipal Stadium was. Here is the subject property. It's been vacant for at least 30 years. Here's a view looking south on Brooklyn. I just wanted to show it's all residential, and a view looking north, again, all residential. This case is interesting. The zoning on this strip of Brooklyn is M1, and the city wants to preserve the little bit of manufacturing districts, especially light manufacturing that we have in the city. So to build a detached house requires a special use permit. But there's actually 2 options. The applicant could go the special use permit route, which would take 6 to 8 weeks and be $200 more expensive. Or with the support of staff, we can rezone and it would be about 4 to 6 weeks and cheaper. So here is the 1951 zoning map. And I just wanted you to look at this because the area has always been zoned light industrial. And it's just leftover zoning that was never caught all these years every time we've redone our zoning code since the 50s. And the yellow right behind the site has always been residential. So the city's grand plan of having light industrial along Brooklyn never happened. It became residential. And then I knew Commissioner Beasley would probably ask me what was there before. So I wanted to include what the home looked like in 1940. Just another piece of evidence that this area has always been residential. And staff does recommend approval of rezoning. And I do have Mr. Wilmore on the call.
So this is literally just like that block.
That block or just that parcel?
It's split mid-block. So if you're on the other side of behind this house, I'll just show you right here. You can see the red line. It is literally just a sliver of old manufacturing zoning. Everything else is residential.
So in theory, in the future, right, this could get rezoned with an area plan update.
It would take, staff did ask the applicant early on, but they weren't able to coordinate it. But we did ask if council could lead a rezoning for this entire strip. That would make it much easier for everyone.
Yeah, the area plan is just a recommendation
Oh,
thing.
okay.
It's not a document that would actually make the change.
It's really kind of a unique case of industrial zoning.
Any other questions from the commission to city staff? Commissioner Hill or Sadowski?
I don't know if this is still the case, but I think the house next door was a childcare facility. As a context.
To the south.
To the
I
south,
believe
yeah.
that is who currently owns the lot and is selling it pending this rezoning.
Okay. I have no issue with it. I just wanted to add that context.
But all of the new build on the west side of Brooklyn is zoned residential. It's just this one little sliver that is manufacturing.
From the railroad tracks down to 22nd on the east side of Brooklyn.
All of those new build residentials were built in the manufacturing zone?
That's correct. Before 2011, before our code changed requiring this.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions from the commission? All right, this time, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 4, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you will be called upon.
Mr. Chair, there's no one in the chambers, and no one has their hand raised online. I have promoted Mr. Wilmore as well.
Okay. Is he part of the applicant or?
That's correct.
Okay, so let's go ahead and close public testimony then. And Mr. Wilmore, if you'd like to speak, that'd be great.
Hey, Andrew, can you stop sharing screen?
Yep.
Thank you.
And Mr. Wilmore, if you are trying to speak, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, I just want to thank the city for the time. Yeah, I just what my plan is just to build a affordable, modern, single-family home on the residence. And at this time, I just thank you guys for your time for taking this matter up.
Okay. Thank you. I guess since I've already gone through public testimony prior to the applicant, it's kind of out of order, but I think we're still good. So with that, any final thoughts from the commission? Otherwise, I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Crowley, move to approve docket item number 4 without conditions.
Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 4. Lisa, can you take roll call on the motion, please?
Commissioner Salander,
Aye.
Baker, Beasley,
Aye.
Crowd,
Aye.
Anders,
Aye.
Hill. Aye. Rojas
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Aye.
Okay, looks like the motion passes in 8-0 for approval of the rezoning. So with that, let's move to docket item number 5, please.
Docket item,
So we're going to go past 1 o'clock, do you think, on our agenda? Are the rest of the cases going to go fairly quick?
hopefully.
I just need to, just trying to figure out if we're supposed to take a lunch break or not.
I think we can fit, I think they should be relatively quick. Yeah,
You
they
think
should
we'll be
be.
done by 1?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Chair Crow, I'm gonna log off as well as Chair.
You're logging off at this time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think Commissioner Hill, she's logging off as well.
Yeah,
Okay. So
thank
it's just,
you.
thank you.
And lunch has been ordered.
Okay, well, I think we're going to try to make our meeting without taking the lunch break. We might take one just little break in there, but not the lunch break. So let's
Okay.
move forward, please.
All right. Docket item number 5 is case number CD CPC 2023-00025. A request to approve a rezoning from District R-1.5 to District B1-3 on about 83 or 0.83 acres, generally located at 4601 Madison Avenue. And Genevieve Kahn is the staff planner.
Good morning.
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 Docket item 5 in front of you is another rezoning without plan at 4601 Madison Avenue. Site is generally located just northwest of the plaza. The subject site contains one multi-story building and is currently zoned R-1.5.
Hey, Genevieve, can you share your screen to Zoom?
Thank you. Site is zoned R-1.5, which generally does not permit commercial or office use. And then as you can see in the black letters here, I have turned on the zoning prior to 2011, when our current zoning and development code was adopted, and the zoning was R4O, which allowed both residential and office uses. And this is one of the zoning districts that for some reason didn't quite translate over into the new zoning code. So again, this is sort of a cleanup zoning in front of you. This building on site has been there since at least prior to 1990, I'm sure before that. So it has always operated as an office. Therefore, it is not in conforming use as it is currently zoned. And so the request is to rezone this to a B1 district so that there are no future complications, as this has been office and the applicant intends to continue the office use. The future land use recommendation in the Midtown Plaza area plan calls for mixed use community, which does allow up to about a B2 zoning. The request is not to go that high as it's not necessary. So the proposed rezoning is in conformance with the area plan recommendation. This is just the language that's in the plan. It is a use to accommodate a variety of retail and service uses. And then I just have a couple of street view images of the site. I'm sure you've all driven past it. I know I drove past it this past weekend. Clearly an office building over to the right here. Again, this is from the top of the hill, and the applicant intends to continue using it for office. Staff's recommendation is approval, and I can take any questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission regarding docket item number 5? Commissioner Beasley?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Wait until I move on to the applicant, right? Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and welcome the applicant to the case, please. Morning. You're welcome to sit up here if you like, or stand, whichever is more convenient. Okay. Perfect.
I'm Will Knowlton from Hush Blackwell, representing the applicant DaVita Dialysis. I have with me today 2 representatives from DaVita, Michelle Pagnano and Mark Kinney. We agree with everything Genevieve offered today. We agree with the staff report. We're pleased to have worked with them on getting this cleaned up. But we just wanted to make ourselves available to answer any questions you might have for us today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, with that, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 5, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you will be called upon.
Mr. Chair, there's no one in the chambers and no one online has raised their hands.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. And any thoughts from the commission? Otherwise, I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Crowley, move to approve docket item number 5 without conditions.
Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 5. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes 6-0 for approval of the rezoning of 4601 Madison. Thank you for bringing that in and appreciate your patience this morning. Okay, with that, let's move on then to docket item number 6, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Docket item number 6 is case number CD-CPC 2022-00217. This is a request to approve a phased non-residential development plan for surface and underground uses in District M1 and M1-5 and US on about 35 acres, generally located at the northeast corner of North Wilson Avenue and I-435. Larissa Chamby is the staff planner.
All right, good morning. Let me share my screen. This is case number CPC 2022-00217 for Subterra. This is a non-residential conceptual development plan that consists of M1-5 zoning on the surface and underground space subsurface development. The proposed development is located in the riverfront industrial area and the lot is currently vacant. There is the BNSF Railroad and KCS Railroad to the north, residential and vacant lots to the south, and residential and the City of Independence to the east, and I-435 is to the west. The proposal is using the existing access to the caves as an access point, and I'll show you that in a future slide. This is the proposed layout for the surface development. It includes a total of 11 buildings and a mixture of commercial, industrial, and warehouse uses. The proposed square footages for the buildings range from 12,000 square feet to 30,000 square feet with a maximum height of 30 feet. This is a look at the underground storage space, and here you can see the access to the caves kind of wraps around and enters on this side, on the eastern side of the property. The developer is proposing adequate pedestrian circulation for the property and pedestrian connectivity from the buildings to the proposed sidewalks, and additional parking for bicycle space or bicycle parking will be reviewed at the time of project plan. He has provided a landscaping plan that shows this hatched area as trees to be preserved throughout, and then filling in the gaps with additional landscaping. Interior landscaping will also be reviewed at the time of project plan. This road you see going through the project will be constructed by the Port Authority, and the on-site circulation does provide for safe and efficient movement of traffic. Here's the proposed elevations for Building A. It was the only elevations provided for the 11 buildings. Again, those will be reviewed through the project plan process. And staff is recommending approval with conditions.
Okay, any questions from the commission to city staff?
And the applicant might answer this later, but could you go back to the slide that showed the underground level and just explain what we're looking at?
I will have the applicant explain that one.
That's not solar panels.
Yeah.
No.
Can you speak into the microphone?
Steve Warder, 6127 Northwest Pine Ridge Circle, Parkville, Missouri, 64152. On the cave underneath, I was thinking we had another sheet, but basically in the cave, which it was basically a mine, there are the columns that are in there. We would, right now, we're looking at some storage of just newer vehicles potentially at this point, but later on, we might break that up into regular industrial type, build the concrete block walls, have its own private entrance if we have a warehousing need or something to that effect within the cave. So as that comes forward and we market it and we get people to come in, we will be coming in for a plan to break that up just like we did on what we would on the top.
What is the darker area versus
what this was actually, the first phase of this is a more surface parking rather than building the industrial buildings. And then we would eliminate the surface parking as we got an opportunity for industrial buildings to go in on the surface. The below ground, the cave would not look like this as far as, but every one of those little blocks are potential cars that would be parked if it was just a full surface parking.
Gotcha.
Just like a great big parking lot. I guess that's what it is, a great big parking lot.
So you mentioned Wilson Road. Is it really Independence Avenue that's coming across?
It is called Wilson Road in that area. And then south of there is Winter Road, which is sometimes I think considered Independence, or it changed just to Independence Avenue. But we would, to access this property off of 435, you would go east on Winter or Independence Avenue, the same one, to Blue Ridge Boulevard, and then go up and then come in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We wouldn't go up Wallace and the other individual streets. It's a divided street where Little Blue Parkway, or where Blue, not Little Blue, but Blue Parkway is. And that would be the better access for us to get into it.
I'm just trying to hone in on where I think you are. So
Okay.
if it's Independence Avenue, it's going to be on the south side, and I think it's a stoplight.
Yes.
The right is some other things, gas station and stuff.
But if you're on 435 and you take
No.
Winter
Independence
Road,
Avenue.
okay, pardon?
On Independence Avenue.
70, we'd be way north of 70.
No, Independence Avenue.
Okay, Independence Avenue, we're north of Independence Avenue.
That's quite a way south.
Avenue South.
So on that drawing, so the inside of the underground portion of the cave is it very linear and like very straight lines, and it does follow the property line like that?
Cave limits are pretty close to the end of the property line itself. There's some that goes into Independence, which we're getting that zoning taken care of. But for the most part, it was just mined up to those property lines when they were doing that.
Fascinating.
So question about coming in and out, because I remember this, we rezoned it without a
We
plan.
zoned it a while back.
And I think the main concern was less about what's going to be on it, but like Wilson Avenue, improving Wilson Avenue and getting in and out of the site. So can you, and I see that there's a unfinished street going north. Is there plans to avoid the residential to the south and east of this, or how are you gonna handle the truck traffic from the site?
The truck traffic would come off of Winter Road at Blue River over to the west right in this area. Up this road here, turn left and come into the site. The site entrance will be improved. It'll be a regular asphalted drive. And as we showed on the one drawing, it was brought up when we were doing the rezoning, there's a plan to bring a road. I think it was like the Manchester traffic way type thing through our property and go over the railroad as it sits to an intermodal or to a property that the Port Authority has. And so what we did in our design, we contacted them before the zoning, and I've contacted them a couple of times since then. They haven't funded any more study for that road, but we have allowed for that road to go through, and that would be a major connection between wherever it goes to the south, and it'll go farther south than Winter or Wilson, obviously, and then go to the north. So we're trying to keep that as the focal point of where we come in. And then we would direct truck traffic as they come south out of our property, it would go east that half a block and then south to Winter Road. So as you may or may not know, the Kansas City Port Authority is planning an intermodal facility on the north side of these tracks that would be placed in there. And as part of that project, they can't get access to 435, or it was proposed that they put another interchange into 435, and MoDOT simply won't allow them to do that. And so they're looking at coordinating with this project to bring a bridge across the railroad tracks, as plus some of the drainage in that area, so they can have access down to Wilson Avenue and Winter Road, as well as north, once the intermodal facility goes in, to tie in the Front Street.
Yeah, I guess not opposed to the project. I guess I'm just worried about so much truck traffic on Winter Road, right?
essentially, because if you're gonna have the intermodal and it's gonna come down even south, you're gonna add even more, right? And
But I think what's going to happen, and I haven't seen the thing going farther south with the intermodal, but I would imagine this improvement is not just going to dump on the Winter Road. It's going to go down and they will build some other interchange or some other
okay,
roadways to make it. It's not just going to all come dump on Winter Road. Yeah, there's a lot of study and being done in this Blue Valley industrial area now. And there are plans in place to improve Manchester, to take it all the way north and up to feed all of this,
okay.
plus other industrial parts within that area.
All right, I'm good.
Any other questions from the commission to the applicant? Okay, so let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody from the public that would like to speak regarding docket item number 6, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
There is no raised hand in the Zoom.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, sir. Thank you. We're in agreement with the conditions. So
Okay. All right, with that, I guess we'll close testimony then and speak amongst the commission, or I'll take a vote, please. Or motion.
Chair Corral, I move to approve docket item number 6 with conditions.
Second.
So I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 6. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes in 6-0 for approval of the project. So thank you.
thank you all. Appreciate it.
Good luck. All right, let's move on to docket item number 7, please.
Docket item number 7 is case number CD-2023-00004. This is a request to approve a special use permit for a temporary structure used as a transfer station in District M3-1 on about 7.8 acres located at 6709 East US Highway 40. Larissa Shambi is the staff planner.
Larissa, I need to recuse from this case because I believe a recommendation has come through from an organization I'm involved. So Tyler, you're taking over, right? Okay, thank you.
All right. As was mentioned, this is a special use permit, SUP 2023-00004 for the Mark II transfer station expansion. This is to allow for a temporary structure to be used as a transfer station in District M3-1. This is the location in relation to the rest of the city. Here is an aerial of the site as it is today. The developer is proposing to divert the daily asphalt shingle construction waste from landfills, and there is already an existing transfer station on the site. The subject property is located east of the Blue River and north of Interstate 70. And the accessory structure will be located south of the existing parking lot. And there will be a rain garden south of that as well. This is the proposed site plan for the additional temporary structure. They have added an access drive for easier circulation throughout the site. The proposed structure is subordinate in size and principal use of the lot, and it will contribute to the necessity of the principal building. Here is the landscaping plan and the rain garden that is being proposed. This is the view from I-70. The developer will need to get approval of a variance regarding the height of the detached accessory structure. It's approximately 28.9 feet in height, and the allowed height is 25 feet. The temporary structure is made up of an aluminum box beam structure, And access to the site is from Westport Independence Road and US Highway 40. The access hasn't changed from the previous special use permit for the existing transfer station. The circulation on the site is safe and efficient. There are pedestrian connections throughout the site to all the buildings that require workers to walk towards. The developer has also provided the required amount of bicycle parking in order to ensure a diversity of modes of transportation to the site. And the trees that you see along the eastern border are all going to be preserved, as you can see in their landscaping plan. And most of the landscape that is currently in place was approved with the original special use permit for the original transfer station. And that is the end of my presentation. I can answer any questions.
Thanks. Any questions for staff? Great. Welcome to the applicant. Please
Thank you.
proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. My name is Chris Maddox. I'm a lawyer with Rouse, Fretz, White, Goss Law Firm, office address of 4510 Bellevue Avenue in Kansas City, Missouri, 64111. Joined today with a representative of the owner, Mr. Aiden Monheiser, and then also part of our project team. We have at least one or two engineers with Phelps Engineering who did the civil, and then Anastasia Welch with SCS Engineering is involved with kind of the industrial regulatory side of this to also answer any questions. I do have a brief presentation. The one with AW comments, just to walk through a little bit about what it is that we're trying to do here. So this is a background slide of the existing site as it sits today. The portion of the site where we were proposing to put this new structure, this new temporary structure, and I want to emphasize that this is a proof of concept where this transfer station already receives construction and demolition debris waste, which gets aggregated into larger loads and then gets shipped out into landfills outside the city. This project, this structure is a proof of concept to see if there's a way that we can reduce the amount of waste that goes to landfills by diverting shingles and roofing materials and then processing them in a way that can be used for second products that don't end up in a landfill and that become part of our streets. There's a MoDOT approved program that we'll talk about here in a minute. So that's kind of high level why we're here today. So again, our request would be to approve a special use permit to allow a new 15,000 square foot temporary proof of concept shingle recycling structure at an existing transfer station facility. There's no proposed rezoning associated with this request. As Ms. Chamby stated, here's our location. You can see the subject property outlined here. Access is off of Highway 40 to Westport Independence Road. Westport Independence Road, I believe, based on the final plat, comes down a little bit on this tail. Is that correct, Olafu? Thank you. And then where we see that triangle, that's really where the private drives begin. And all of this was approved again under a prior area plan amendment, rezoning, and special use permit application originating back in 2018. It was amended to allow municipal waste at the transfer station. And then I believe there was also, let's see, well, that was the final approval was in 2020. So this recycling process is essentially no new trips. We're not going to receive any waste that isn't already received today. This facility since 2018 has already received shingle waste and other construction demolition debris. We're only talking about internally, how do we segregate, sort, and process those shingles so that we can divert it from the ultimate landfill site. So here's kind of a high level 4-step process of what that looks like. Existing waste will be inbound, no new trips, no new traffic, no changes in the material mix that we process. But when we identify shingles, when they come in, we will divert them to this new proposed temporary structure for a series of mechanical and labor intensive processes to kind of separate them, break them down into a product that can be ground up. And then we take that asphalt composite, that component of it, and that's what becomes the asphalt that we put into our streets. So that material will again just be processed in a way then where it will leave the facility much the same way that existing outbound material leaves our facility. And then the rest of it will go back. If there's anything that is a waste byproduct of this, it will go back into the normal waste stream and be deposited as it is today currently. So operating characteristics. Odor, noise, and dust from this facility is heavily regulated by the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. Again, we have professional engineers, Anastasia Welch, who can talk more about that in more detail if you have questions about that. But MDNR is the primary regulatory authority on that piece. But we're also subject to KCMO guidelines about dust mitigation, and all of the activities that we're proposing will occur indoors. To mitigate the amount of any sort of dust that might leave this facility. And so that will by itself really contribute to this being a very clean sort of operations. If there is any need to, we have a plan to use some sort of water sprinkler system to help mitigate any dust that builds up internally for the health and safety of our employees. And then shingles, just by their very nature, are not really hazardous, not odorous. They don't attract rodents or birds. They're a construction byproduct. And so there's not a lot of litter associated with this site. Any inbound and outbound trucks that enter or exit the facility are required to be covered. And so, again, just by that nature and by the fact that shingles are heavier, more dense products, they don't typically blow around like you see with other types of debris. So that summarizes our operating characteristics. This is a screenshot from a website from the Missouri Department of Transportation. MoDOT has been pretty much at the cutting edge of trying to identify ways that they can build greener infrastructure. And so this is actually a MoDOT pilot program where you can see there's a business case. It's actually cheaper to use recycled materials than it is just to go out and use asphalt that they currently use. It saves MoDOT money. Beyond the cost savings, it's environmentally responsible. Under MoDOT estimates, there's about 146,000 tons of roofing materials that get deposited into landfills. If we can put a dent into that number and redirect those landfills to put them into streets, into durable, hard infrastructure projects, I think we're helping to solve some of that waste issues. And then in the long term, it also reduces the amount of petroleum that MoDOT ends up having to use for their projects. So again, we can use these mixes that are approved by MoDOT engineers and reduce the amount of petroleum byproducts that they use then when they do asphalting projects. So all around, there's cost savings, it's greener, and then it's more environmentally friendly if we can somehow play a role in this process. So again, I think Ms. Chamby has done a great job, kind of overview of the site plan. Outlined here in gray is where we propose where this temporary structure would sit. Temporary in that I believe the plans currently are to have this up and running for about 2 to 3 years so that we can prove the business case at our place, our position in the life cycle of making this a green project. If we do decide that this is something that we can do beyond that 2 to 3 year timeframe, we will obviously come back here with plans for a permanent structure once we've kind of have this proof of concept verified. So I think that pretty much gets us through. I don't need to go into any more details, I think, on the grading or the landscaping. The reason that Chairman Crow had to recuse himself is that we did engage the public, specifically the Blue Valley Industrial Association is very well established. They've been in I think in existence for over 100 years and have played a really big role in the development and redevelopment of this area, this part of town. And so, of course, we would naturally want to reach out to them and get their support. Included in your staff packet is the full 2-page letter that we received, but just know that we do have their support. And then I'd also would like to clarify that because we're not changing any of the operational characteristics in terms of inbound or outbound traffic, a traffic impact study was not required by the city and one was not required by MoDOT. The existing volumes of traffic that this site was designed to handle is adequate, and we don't expect any changes to that as a result of this new temporary facility. And so I know that was a brief overview, but I'm happy to make myself or my team available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
I am amazed he did answer 2 of my questions, so thank you. And that was, what is temporary? I forgot what the second one was, but anyhow, you answered them both. Additional, just a question of thought, other than roofing material. I know tires are an issue. Is that somewhere on the horizon to look in how they could do something with those?
I might actually have to kick that over to someone who knows more about the industry than myself. So,
Thinking,
yeah.
trying to eliminate stuff, and that tires are a big headache. So I was just thinking, is that somewhere on the horizon maybe?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Aiden Montheiser. Do I need to give my address?
Mhm.
I own me and my wife and my family own the Mark II Waste Transfer Station, 6709 East US 40 Highway, Kansas City, Missouri, 64129.
Okay.
Yes, there's lots of diversion programs we would like to offer. And yes, there is more in process. When we were approached by a couple of different regeneration organizations in town, they asked us which of the programs would be most effective and divert the most tonnage from landfills as it sits. And asphalt shingles was our
Number one.
yeah. We currently receive during the busy season almost 200 tons of asphalt shingles a day.
Oh my.
Yeah. Tires are significantly less. Mattresses are also another item that we would like to find a diversion program for. But we could go on and on, but yes, there's lots more on the horizon.
That's great news. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you working with Bob Berkebile and Brian Weinberg?
Brian Weinberg. Yes, sir.
Sounds good.
Regeneration US. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm excited to see something like this come into play. More we can reuse, recycle, and thank you for your rain garden, putting the rain garden into. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
If there are no other questions, we'll open it up for public testimony. Well, if is there anyone online?
There's no raised hand in Zoom.
Great. All right, we'll go ahead and close public testimony. And then if there's any discussion, now would be the time. Otherwise, we'll take a motion.
Case is this?
7.
Move to approve docket item 7 with conditions.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve docket item number 7 with conditions. Lisa, could you please take roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
All right, it's been approved, 5 votes to 0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for running with that, Commissioner Enders. Okay. We're on docket item number 8, please.
All right, docket item number 8 is case number CD SUP 2023-00005, Heartland Center for Behavioral Change, a request to approve a special use permit for an existing halfway house and detention facility in districts B4-5 and M1-5 for a period of 2 years on about 0.13 acres, generally located at the northwest corner of East 16th Street and Campbell Street. And Olafu Agbaji is the staff planner.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the City Plan Commission, Olafu Agbaji, City Planning and Development staff. With me is Paul Lewis from Lathrop and Gage. This next item, case number SUP 2023-005, is a request for a special use permit, and this comes before you every 2 years. So this is a renewal of their special use permit. This is for the Heartland for Behavioral Change Center, and it's located kind of at the southeast corner of the downtown loop. So right there where my arrow is pointing. And it's just off the slip, the on-ramp for southbound 71 off of East Truman. So this is a view looking south of the site. And this is the existing site plan, sits on about 5 parcels. And you can see 2 years ago, they did house the detention facility temporarily here, and that's no longer needed. So it's just to approve this existing halfway home to continue to operate. And this will be for another 2 years, which means they'll be back to this body for the same approval and then back to the BZA. The code requires that you can only approve them for 2 years, so they will keep coming back. This was first granted in March of 1984 was when they established this location, and the last approval was granted on July 13th, 2021. So staff's recommendations for approval, subject to them just operating for 2 years and come back in 2 years. And I think we have Mr. Kyle Mead from Heartland, if you have any question. One thing I want to point out, or one thing you may have seen in my report, when I did the criteria, I did receive one call from the neighbor who had some concerns about the operation, and I did forward them to both Louis and Mr. Mead, and they did talk, so he can comment on what the outcome of that was. But with that, staff's recommendation is for approval, subject to the one condition, and that ends my report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission to city staff? Okay, let's welcome the applicant. Hello.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. I'm Paul Lewis with Lathrop GPM. I think Alofu hit the high points. We were initially approved in 1984 and have been back every 2 years since, including this time. As Alofu mentioned, we did get some questions from a neighborhood representative, hosted a Zoom meeting, answered all his questions. It was a friendly conversation, and I think we started the communication process, which had been lacking for a while. I have Kyle Mead here, who's the CEO of Heartland Center for Behavioral Change, available to answer any questions, but we would like to continue operations for another 2 years and ask that you give us that approval to do so.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission to the applicant?
What's your capacity?
Sorry, I didn't hear
What's your capacity?
I'm the CEO.
No, the building
Oh,
capacity.
the building capacity. I'm sorry. Well, we could probably house based on Department of Corrections housing standards, which is kind of how the company originally started in a halfway house business, is with the Missouri Department of Corrections, about 150 to 160 people, depending upon the use of the space. That's considerably greater than anything that we intend to be able to do. Right now, I think we're looking at about a total of 85 people would be the maximum number of people we anticipate serving.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission? All right, so let's open it up for any public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 8, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you will be called upon.
Mr. Chair, there's no one in the chambers and one person has raised their hand and they are being promoted.
Okay.
And it's Don Peterson.
Sorry, Don Henderson?
Peterson.
Peterson, okay.
So can everyone hear me?
Yes.
And I'm not sure how I join with video, or maybe I don't. I'm not sure how that works in your process, but I can speak without being seen. And I am an attorney who represents Blue Valley Laboratories, who unfortunately is the neighbor to this facility. And it operates a water treatment business next to the Heartland Center and Behavioral Center, I guess is the name of it. And we are unfortunately the victims of its operation. And essentially, I'm here to object on my behalf of my client to the renewal of the special use permit. I'm not sure what that special use permit allows this Heartland Center to do, but I do know that in the past that they have operated this facility as a private jail, and we believe that that's a public nuisance and reason enough not to renew this special use permit. I'm not sure from what I've heard from staff if this use as a private jail was allowed within the last couple years. So I'm uncertain as to whether they're knowingly violating a special use permit, because when we made inquiry concerning what that entailed, we were told it had been in place for so long that it really wasn't available to see just what use was made. But we do believe that having this facility used as a private jail with inmates appropriately clothed in orange jumpsuits escaping from what is unsecured facility is not in the public's interest, nor is it a favorable environment for my client. And my client's now faced with a situation as a result of the way this facility is being operated, where it needs to consider putting up fencing to protect residents of that facility from using its parking lot or harassing its business invitees as they enter the business premises. And we quite frankly believe that the way this facility is operated is not sufficiently secure to protect the public. And what I would argue and present to this commission is that we have residents here that are all criminals. You know, there maybe some are technically not convicted, but they're all found guilty of drug-related crimes or whatever other related crimes there may be that they're preparing to re-enter society, but they're essentially unregulated by this group, and that they can leave this facility anytime they want. And also, I guess they have access to the grounds without any type of supervision. As I mentioned, our customers get catcalls from people standing outside the facility smoking or whatever they might be doing. And we have people that refuse to leave our parking lot. And we've even come across police officers who have been in our parking lot, I guess, acting as undercover drug agents to, I suppose, stop any drug trafficking in the area. And of course, one of the functions that this halfway house performs is providing counseling to substance abuse users. But clearly what's happened here is we have a facility that's not sufficiently regulated, and I don't know what the special use permit requires, but I do know that there's been a homicide within that facility. So obviously the staffing hasn't been adequate to protect even the residents of the facility from crime. And my client's concerned that it too can be victimized by serious criminal activity, including any type of activity like assaults of its employees or customers. And we've already been victimized by graffiti, use of our recessed, I guess it's the dock for.
Mr. Peterson, we're kind of running out of time here on the public testimony piece. You mind wrapping it up?
Yeah, I'll wrap it up.
Okay, thank you.
We object to the renewal of this special use permit on the basis that this facility is a public nuisance as the way, in the manner in which it's operated. Its residents, who are criminals, are allowed to roam freely. And the only thing that happens is, from what I can tell, is when they break out, they tell them, well, you better, we'll either tell your probation officer or we'll let you back in, but there's no regulation, and we believe that that's a threat to the public safety. And that needs to be remedied before this facility should be continued to operate. That's all I have to say on the issue.
Okay, thank you.
No one else appears online.
Okay. Thank you. So at this time, we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. So it sounds like there's some concerns from adjacent neighbor. Do you mind addressing those for us, please?
Yeah, absolutely. As to his point about operating as a private jail, there was a period, and Kyle, you may need to elaborate on this, where Heartland Center and Jackson County reached an agreement to house some detainees at a time when the Jackson County Jail was overflowing. That relationship has ended. That was true as of the last renewal, and it's still true. There are currently no detainees, and otherwise, a number of those complaints were just complaints about halfway houses in general, which are a necessity for any city, and they have to go somewhere. But Kyle, would you mind elaborating on the jail piece?
Sure. I would like to clarify that the contract was with the Kansas City Municipal Courts and KCPD. Kyle Mead, I'm the CEO at Heartland Center for Behavioral Change. And the contract was with the city of Kansas City, not with Jackson County. I do know that there were some issues related to detention between Jackson County and the municipal courts. And so Heartland Center was approached and asked if we could possibly assist so that there would be a location for KCPD to be able to take offenders who had been arrested until they could be transferred to another location. I will fully admit that it was did not go the way that we had intended to, and we ended that relationship fairly quickly. It was in fact a challenge for us, but our goal and our intent was nothing more than to allow for those residents of our community to remain in our community so they would have access to the resources that were available here, and to hopefully ease some of the burden on their family members for those individuals who were incarcerated. I don't know if everybody is aware, but those individuals are going to Vernon County and Johnson County for incarceration at this time. And it was simply an attempt to try to help that situation, fully acknowledging that it didn't go well and that we did end that relationship. We are an agency that focuses in on people who are involved in the criminal justice system. It is a population that we've embraced. It's a vulnerable population, and that does pose some challenges associated with it. But to say that we're unregulated, I don't think is really accurate. We have contracts with the Department of Corrections and with other funders. They come in and tour our facility and do audits on a regular basis. Staffing patterns and the ratio of the number of recovery technicians to the number of people we served are monitored at all times, as well as the physical location that they're being housed and the processes for people to return to pro-social activities like finding a job and job searching and finding a safe and comfortable place for permanent housing for themselves. So it does come with some challenges, but I do think it's a necessary thing for our community to have an opportunity for those people to be successful.
Can you kind of describe a little bit more how you get folks that stay there and what process they go through before they're brought back into the general public?
Sure. It is absolutely voluntary. No one is mandated to be there. They may get a parole or probation stipulation that requires them to complete some kind of a program. And we are a behavioral health organization that has licensed clinical social workers, licensed professional counselors. So when that individual presents to us, we do an assessment. We find out what their needs are going to be, and we try to put a team of people around them, from recovery technicians to community support providers and even peer support providers, people who have lived experience similar to what those individuals have had experienced in their lives, and to try to work towards pro-social goals. And so on average, people stay with us maybe around 45 days. We do have some that will go a little bit longer if their needs are more significant. But most people within 45 days are in a position to be able to obtain employment and to start seeking regular housing. And they move through that program. We do offer substance use disorder treatment services as well, and co-occurring treatment services as well, working with community partners like University Health, Swope Parkway. So I feel like that we utilize the resources in the community as a whole to try to wrap around those individuals to meet their needs.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission?
I have a couple questions. Has there been any improvements made regarding free space, outside space for people to just be able to get outside? Have you made any improvements around the building to address some of those concerns of not really loitering because they're on private property, but free time maybe outside the building? Have you done anything along those lines?
We have, we had a chain link fence for a very long time for the area of the building that was facing Highway 71 there. And we put up a full privacy fence, a 6-foot privacy fence that allowed for those consumers who are there to have an outside space. Did a little bit of work with trying to do some raised bed gardening for some things for the people to be able to do in that particular space, picnic tables. We understand that when the individuals are outside and they're smoking cigarettes and that they may be engaging in loud talk. And so we've tried to move most of that stuff either behind that 6-foot fence or to the back of the building. Those are our designated areas for them to be able to go to and smoke. So it's not right out on Campbell Street.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission to the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, just as a statement, the approval granted in 2021 allowed for the detention facility. So they were approved to do that. Today's request does not include the detention facility. So that's the difference. So we did allow that because the city requested it, and we.
You mind just talking real briefly about what is included in the special use permit? What?
It's just for the halfway house. So
halfway house.
When they did that trial with the city in 2021, we granted that approval for the halfway house and the detention facility. Today's request is just for the halfway house, no detention facility.
Okay. Is there a limit of people on that special use permit or no?
There's no limit of people, no. It's just for the existing facility to keep operating as it is. So.
Okay. Other questions? Okay, so let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. I think I already did that, didn't I? So we're still in public testimony. Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
No one appears online.
Okay, so let's close public testimony then. Anything else to add before we stop with? Okay.
Excuse me.
So at this time, we'll close all testimony and speak amongst the commission. If there's nothing else to discuss, then I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Corral, I move to approve docket item number 8 with conditions.
Second. So I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 8 with conditions stated. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes 6-0. Thank you for bringing that in and appreciate your work that you're doing with these folks, and see you in a couple of years.
Thank you all very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, let's move on to docket item number 9.
All right, docket item number 9 is case number CD CPC 2023-00018. The request to approve a development plan, which also serves as a preliminary plat to allow an industrial complex in District M2-5 on about 64 acres generally located at the southwest corner of I-435 and Northwest Skyview Avenue. And Genevieve Kahn is the staff planner.
Good morning still. Okay, we're
morning.
getting close. All right. Docket item 9 in front of you is for a development plan, an industrial development plan at 11620 Northwest Skyview Avenue. The site should look familiar to you. It was recently in front of the commission and then the council for rezoning, which I'll get to when I show you the site, but site's generally located in the Northland, just east of the airport. This is the site. The last time you saw it, it was zoned AG-R for agricultural. The rezoning to M2-5 was approved, and now the applicant is before you with their proposed development plan. As you can see, there is a stream that crosses the southeast corner of the site. So there will also be some stream buffer implications for this plan. This is the proposed site plan containing, I believe, 12 new buildings and a C-store with gas station right at the entrance off Skyview. The buildings closer to Northwest Skyview are planned as more flex office space, lesser intense uses, and then the larger buildings farther away from Skyview are planned as more warehousing with truck traffic, logistics, and other light industrial. As this is a large development, one condition of the project is that each phase, as it is ready to be developed, receive approval of a project plan. So once the details are more fleshed out, it will come before the commission again. The types of plans that will be more in detail are landscaping, lighting plan, some of the connectivity of how people are getting around the sites. And then this is the preliminary plat that was provided. So there will be 8 lots created for the variety of buildings, and then 2 tracks to house detention and for the stream buffer area. This red section through the middle is the proposed public right-of-way to be constructed to serve all of the lots. And then I also just have the design guidelines here that were submitted by the applicant and reviewed by staff. As I mentioned, this will be a phased project. And so these design guidelines will help staff moving forward as we get all of those individual projects to keep sort of a consistent character for this development area. It mostly talks about the materials and sort of just general site design. These are just a few street view images. This one is from the ramp off of 435 that exits onto Skyview. So the site has some tree buffer around it and then just largely clear from previous agricultural uses. And then just another view looking north. Yes, on Skyview. Again, you can see the tree line, but past the tree line, it's generally just open field area. And staff's recommendation is approval with conditions. And I believe the applicant is available online for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission to city staff?
So the street going across the stream buffer, will that have just those big what those are called, that allow water to flow under a road?
Box culvert.
Is that what'll be there?
I'll let the applicant speak about the engineering design behind that.
So that's the right of way. Who's building the street?
The developer.
Gotcha.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Perla Diosdado with Kimley Horn, 805 Pennsylvania Avenue, Kansas City, Missouri. We are the planner and civil engineering on this project, and with me should also be Sarah Cunningham, who is online representing Billman, the client on this project. While I was getting promoted on this call, I missed the question.
I think the question was, is the actual material or structure being used across the stream buffer or the stream itself? Is that a box culvert or,
Yes, right now we are showing it as a box culvert.
you know, what size?
We didn't do detailed analysis and we don't have that size right now.
Okay. All right, is anything you'd like to discuss on this project as we think about questions here?
I don't have anything to add to the report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission for the applicant?
But this is a phased project. What are you anticipating from start to finish time involvement?
The time,
Yes. What length of time do you see the project to be full built out?
that would be a question for Sarah. Is Sarah promoted here?
Yes, she is.
I don't think we can hear Sarah.
Yep, still can't hear her.
Yeah, I'm still not able to hear her yet. Looks like she's on mute again.
Sarah, can you try one more time?
When we discussed timeline, I didn't want to answer the questions. I don't have a year specifically for you guys, but it is very high demand right now. I don't anticipate this being a very lengthy. I think this is in high demand and would be able to be on a faster pace.
Okay, so we're talking 10 years or less?
Correct. That's the assumption.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, so at this time, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 9, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you will be called upon. I don't see anybody in the chambers.
And there is one person online. They've raised their hand. It's Cullum Partnership, and they are being promoted.
Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, I'm a neighbor across the street, Andrew Collum, 11157 Northwest Skyview Road. And I just wanted to express my support for the project.
Okay, thank you.
No one else appears online.
All right, so at this time, we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Anything you'd like to add from the applicant side?
No.
Okay. I'll take a motion then from the commission.
Chair Crowley, move to approve docket item number 9 with conditions.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 9 with conditions stated. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes 6-0 for approval of the project. Thank you for bringing it in. With that, I think that concludes our docketed items for the day. So again, the next meeting we have is April 4th. It appears that 4 of the commissioners will be there at this point in time. But if one of you or myself feels like we're not going to be able to make it, we need to let the city staff know as soon as possible so they can contact everybody to delay all the cases to the next meeting, which will make it that meeting a little bit longer. So. Okay, anything else to be brought before the commission before we adjourn?
I just need to know which 4 will be there.
At this time, Allender, Crowell, Enders, and I believe Sadowski.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, with that, motion to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody. We made it shortly after lunchtime.